Have you ever wondered why some people always seem so confident, while you often feel like you're missing just a little bit of courage? The truth is, confidence doesn't come from giant leaps, it's built from small wins each day. These little victories may seem simple, but they hold the power to transform how you see yourself, step by step, until you become a stronger, bolder version of you. Today, let's explore how small wins can ignite the spark of confidence within you. When people think about building confidence, they often imagine dramatic changes or life-altering events, landing the perfect job, delivering a powerful speech in front of hundreds, or making a bold leap into the unknown. While those moments can certainly spark a sense of pride, lasting confidence rarely comes from grand gestures. Instead, it grows quietly, almost invisibly, through the small and simple steps we choose to take each day. Starting small may sound unimpressive, but it is exactly this humble beginning that creates a foundation strong enough to carry you forward toward bigger dreams. Think about the first time you learned something new, perhaps riding a bicycle. You did not start with a 10-mile ride. You began by sitting on the seat, wobbling down the driveway, maybe even falling a few times. Each small attempt mattered. Each time you stayed on the bike a little longer, each time you pedaled with more control, you built the courage to try again. Eventually, without realizing it, those tiny wins accumulated until you were riding with confidence. The same principle applies to every area of life. Confidence is not born out of one huge victory, but out of repeated, consistent small actions. Starting with small steps has a unique psychological advantage. Human brains are wired to respond to completion and reward. When you take on a big, intimidating goal, the brain often resists because the reward feels too far away. But if you break it down into a step so small that it feels almost effortless, like waking up 10 minutes earlier than usual, writing just one sentence in a journal, or going for a 5-minute walk, you immediately experience the satisfaction of progress. That satisfaction triggers motivation, and motivation fuels consistency. Slowly, these consistent acts build a strong sense of belief in yourself. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to build confidence is setting unrealistic expectations at the beginning. Imagine someone who hasn't exercised in years deciding they're going to run 5 miles every morning. On the first day, they may push themselves, but the soreness and discouragement that follow often make them quit before they truly start. In contrast, if the same person decided to walk around the block for just 5 minutes a day, they'd likely keep it up. That daily walk would become a small win that reinforces the belief, I am capable of following through. Over time, the walk may grow into a jog, then a run, and eventually into something much bigger than they first imagined, all because they started small. Small wins are not about lowering your standards. They are about creating momentum. Think of momentum like a snowball rolling down a hill. At first it is tiny, almost unnoticeable. But as it keeps rolling, it gathers more snow, becomes bigger, and eventually unstoppable. Every little action you complete is like another roll of that snowball. With enough time, the momentum you build will carry you into achievements you once thought impossible. There is also an emotional benefit to starting with small, simple steps. It reduces the fear of failure. Failure can crush confidence if the stakes are too high at the beginning. But when the step is small, the risk feels manageable. If you commit to reading 1 page of a book each night, failing to do so doesn't feel like a devastating blow. On the other hand, setting a goal to finish the entire book in a week and then falling short can leave you feeling defeated. By lowering the barrier to entry, you give yourself permission to try without the weight of perfection. Ironically, this freedom often leads to greater success than aiming too high too soon. Another key element is visibility. Small steps are easier to track and measure, and progress that can be seen becomes progress that can be celebrated. Let's say you are learning a new language. If your goal is to become fluent, you may feel discouraged for months or even years because fluency takes time. But if your daily step is to learn 5 new words, you can see and feel progress immediately. After a week, that's 35 words. After a month, more than 100. Each time you hit that small target, you are reminded that you are moving forward. And with each reminder, your confidence grows. Starting small also creates resilience. Life is unpredictable, and setbacks are inevitable. Large, ambitious goals often collapse when life throws unexpected challenges your way. But small steps are more adaptable. If your goal is to meditate for 1 minute a day, you can still accomplish it even on the busiest day. This flexibility ensures that your streak of progress isn't broken, which keeps your confidence intact. Once you prove to yourself that you can succeed even when life is messy, your belief in your own ability strengthens dramatically. It is also important to acknowledge that small steps don't stay small forever. They compound. Compounding is the silent engine of growth. Just as saving a small amount of money every day eventually builds into significant wealth, taking small daily steps toward confidence eventually transforms your self-image. A person who once doubted themselves begins to identify as someone reliable, capable, and strong, not because of one grand moment of triumph, but because of hundreds of small, steady wins stacked on top of each other. Consider the example of public speaking. If you are terrified of addressing a large crowd, starting with a huge stage may only deepen your fear. Instead, you might begin by speaking up in a small meeting, then sharing an idea in a group of friends, then giving a short toast at a family dinner. Each of these is a small step, a small win. Over time, your brain begins to rewire its understanding. I spoke up and it went well. I can handle this. That belief eventually grows until you are ready for the larger stage. And by the time you get there, your confidence feels natural rather than forced. The beauty of small wins is that they are accessible to everyone, no matter their circumstances. You don't need special resources, huge amounts of time, or extraordinary talent. All you need is the willingness to take one manageable step. This accessibility means that anyone, anywhere can begin building confidence today. Not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, but right now. Even the act of reading this and deciding to take one small action afterward can become your first win. In the end, confidence is less about the scale of your achievements and more about the consistency of your actions. When you prove to yourself daily that you can start and finish small tasks, you cultivate a deep trust in yourself. That trust is the essence of confidence. It doesn't matter how insignificant the step may appear to others. What matters is that it moves you forward, that it reinforces your belief in your own capability. Over time, these small beginnings will accumulate into something remarkable, and you will look back realizing that the confidence you once longed for has already become part of who you are. Finishing what you start might sound like a simple piece of advice, but in reality, it is one of the most powerful ways to build confidence. Confidence thrives on trust, specifically the trust you place in yourself. Every time you set out to do something and follow through until it is done, you strengthen that trust. Conversely, every time you abandon a task halfway or let unfinished commitments pile up, you chip away at your own belief in your reliability. Over time, this dynamic has a profound effect on how you see yourself. If you consistently finish what you start, even with the smallest tasks, you begin to carry yourself differently. You start to think, "I can count on me." And that is the essence of confidence. One of the reasons finishing matters so much is that the human brain loves closure. When something is left incomplete, it creates mental tension. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency for unfinished tasks to occupy more mental energy than completed ones. That lingering sense of incompleteness drains you, reducing both your focus and your confidence. On the other hand, the moment you finish something, your mind experiences relief and satisfaction. It's as though you've closed a loop, freeing up mental space and reinforcing the idea that you are capable of completing what you set out to do. This is why even the smallest acts of completion can be so powerful. Take the simple example of making your bed in the morning. On the surface, it looks trivial, but finishing that task sets the tone for your day. You've already completed something before you've even left your room. It sends a subtle but powerful signal. I am someone who follows through. Or think about washing the dishes right after you eat instead of leaving them in the sink. It's not about the dishes. It's about the identity you're shaping as a person who finishes. Each of these little acts of completion is like a vote for the kind of person you want to become. Another benefit of finishing small tasks is that it builds momentum for bigger ones. Confidence works much like a muscle. It strengthens with use. By training yourself to finish small, low-stakes tasks, you condition your mind and body to embrace completion as a natural state. Then, when faced with larger challenges, you are more likely to stick with them because your brain is already accustomed to the rhythm of finishing. Someone who gets into the habit of completing minor things, sending that email, tidying up a workspace, crossing off a to-do item, is far more likely to push through and finish major projects. Small completions create the foundation for larger successes. Finishing also helps combat procrastination. Often, we procrastinate because tasks feel endless or overwhelming. But when you develop the discipline to see things through, you train yourself to break tasks into parts that can actually be completed. For example, instead of telling yourself, "I need to write an entire report," you start by finishing one section. The act of completion, no matter how small, generates energy and reduces resistance. That energy then propels you into the next part, and before long, the larger task is done. By linking confidence with completion, you transform what was once intimidating into something manageable. There's another layer here. Finishing tasks consistently reshapes your self-image. Every human being carries a narrative about themselves. Some people believe, "I never stick with anything," and unfortunately, they live according to that story. But self-image is not fixed. It is built moment by moment through repeated actions. If you begin to finish what you start, even tiny things, you gradually rewrite your personal narrative. You shift from being someone who quits to being someone who completes. And that identity shift feeds directly into greater confidence, because you no longer see yourself as unreliable, but as capable and disciplined. It's important to recognize that finishing doesn't mean perfection. You don't need to execute flawlessly, you simply need to bring something to its natural conclusion. Many people avoid finishing tasks because they fear the result won't be good enough. They'd rather leave something incomplete than face the discomfort of imperfection. But the truth is, imperfection is part of growth. Completing a project imperfectly is still a victory, because it reinforces your ability to finish. Over time, as you complete more and more, the quality naturally improves. Confidence doesn't require perfection. It requires persistence. Another way to understand the power of finishing is through the lens of control. Life is filled with circumstances beyond your influence, but finishing what you start is almost always within your power. When you take responsibility for completing tasks, you affirm your ability to control your actions, even if you can't control the outcome. This sense of control builds a quiet kind of confidence, the knowledge that no matter what happens, you can trust yourself to do your part. Finishing also builds respect, both from yourself and others. People notice when you follow through. Colleagues, friends, and family learn that they can count on you. This external validation isn't the main reason to finish tasks, but it is a valuable side effect. As others begin to trust you more, your internal confidence grows stronger. You see proof, both within and outside yourself, that you are dependable. This creates a positive feedback loop. The more you finish, the more trust you gain, and the more confident you become. There's beauty in realizing that confidence doesn't always come from huge accomplishments. Sometimes it comes from something as simple as writing down a list and crossing off every single item by the end of the day. Sometimes it comes from completing a workout, reading the final page of a chapter, or sending that message you've been putting off. Each act of completion, no matter how ordinary, is a deposit into the bank of self-trust. And over time, those deposits add up to a wealth of confidence that no one can take away. Ultimately, building confidence through finishing what you start is about creating alignment between intention and action. When your actions consistently match your intentions, you live in integrity with yourself. That alignment generates a deep and lasting form of confidence, not the kind that comes from external validation, but the kind that comes from knowing you are someone who does what you say you will do. In a world full of distractions and broken commitments, this ability is both rare and invaluable. So begin with the smallest of commitments. Make your bed. Finish that glass of water. Close out your daily journal entry. These may seem insignificant in isolation, but together they form a powerful pattern. Over time, you'll discover that finishing what you start is not just a habit, it's a declaration. A declaration that you are capable, that you are reliable, and that you can trust yourself to see things through. And that is the kind of confidence that transforms lives. Confidence doesn't only come from the actions we take, it also comes from how we perceive and respond to those actions. That's why celebrating small victories is such a powerful tool for building confidence. Too often people overlook their progress, dismissing it as insignificant compared to some larger, distant goal. They think, it's just one step, or that doesn't really count. But the truth is, confidence is strengthened every time you recognize and acknowledge that you are moving forward. Celebrating your small wins is not about inflating your ego or pretending that minor achievements are world-changing. It's about training your mind to see progress, to value effort, and to affirm the fact that you are growing. Think about how a child learns to walk. Parents don't wait until the child runs across the room before they celebrate. They cheer for the first step, the second wobble, and even the attempt to stand up. That encouragement builds the child's belief that they are capable, which motivates them to try again. As adults, we still need that reinforcement, but many of us stop giving it to ourselves. Instead, we reserve celebration for big milestones, a promotion, a degree, a major purchase, and ignore the smaller steps that make those milestones possible. In doing so, we rob ourselves of countless opportunities to strengthen our confidence along the way. Celebrating small victories doesn't mean throwing a party every time you complete a task. It can be as simple as pausing to say, "I did that," or writing your progress down in a notebook. It might mean giving yourself a quiet moment of pride after finishing a workout, or sharing your success with a supportive friend. The key is to acknowledge that what you did matters. When you create a habit of celebration, your brain starts associating effort with reward, which fuels motivation. Over time, this association builds a cycle. You take action, you celebrate, you feel good, and you are inspired to act again. One of the psychological reasons this works so well is that the brain releases dopamine when it experiences achievement and reward. Dopamine is not only the feel-good chemical, it is also the motivation chemical. It creates the desire to repeat the behavior that caused it. If you never celebrate small wins, your brain misses the chance to link effort with pleasure, and motivation can dwindle. But if you consistently acknowledge your progress, you reinforce the loop. Action leads to satisfaction. Satisfaction inspires more action. This cycle is at the heart of growing confidence. It's also worth noting that celebrating small wins helps combat negative self-talk. Many people are quick to notice their mistakes, but slow to acknowledge their progress. They might say things like, "I only lost 1 pound," or "I just read a few pages," dismissing those efforts as too small to matter. Over time, this mindset erodes confidence because it trains the brain to see shortcomings instead of growth. But if you intentionally celebrate even the smallest progress, you shift the focus. You start telling yourself, "I made progress today," and that small shift in language reinforces a narrative of competence and capability. For example, imagine someone learning to play the guitar. If they only celebrate when they can play a full song flawlessly, they might feel discouraged for months, even years. But if they celebrate learning a new chord, playing a simple riff, or improving their finger placement, they experience joy and pride along the way. These small celebrations keep them engaged and confident, fueling their persistence until they do reach that bigger goal. Without those moments of celebration, they may give up long before they see results. Another benefit of celebrating small wins is that it creates visible markers of progress. When you only look at the end goal, the journey can feel endless. But when you celebrate milestones along the way, you create a series of checkpoints that remind you how far you've come. This not only builds confidence but also resilience. On difficult days when the big goal still feels far away, you can look back at your accumulated victories and remind yourself that you are capable of moving forward, one step at a time. Some people worry that celebrating small wins will make them complacent, as if acknowledging progress will cause them to stop striving. But the opposite is true. Celebration doesn't signal that the journey is over. It signals that the journey is worth continuing. By rewarding yourself along the way, you keep your energy and enthusiasm alive. Think of it like fueling a car on a long road trip. If you wait until the end to refuel, you'll never make it. Celebrating small wins is like topping off the tank. It ensures you have the energy to keep moving toward your ultimate destination. Celebration also builds gratitude, which is deeply connected to confidence. When you acknowledge your progress, you begin to appreciate the effort you've invested and the opportunities you've embraced. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already present. That perspective creates a sense of abundance rather than scarcity, reinforcing the idea that you are already succeeding. Confidence grows naturally from this place of gratitude because you begin to trust that you are moving in the right direction, even if the pace is gradual. The ways you celebrate don't have to be extravagant. They simply need to feel meaningful to you. Maybe it's checking off a box on your to-do list with satisfaction. Maybe it's taking a short break to enjoy a cup of tea after finishing a task. Maybe it's telling yourself out loud, "Well done." These simple rituals reinforce your belief in yourself. Over time, they create an internal culture of recognition, where your brain learns to value effort and completion. That culture becomes the soil in which confidence grows. Ultimately, celebrating small victories is about giving yourself credit for showing up, for trying, and for persisting. It's about recognizing that confidence is not a sudden transformation, but a gradual build, brick by brick. Each small win is a brick in the structure of your confidence, and celebrating those wins is how you cement them firmly in place. By the time you reach your larger goals, you won't just feel proud of the achievement itself. You'll also feel confident because you've been reinforcing that belief in yourself every step of the way. So the next time you complete something, no matter how minor it seems, pause and celebrate. Let yourself feel the satisfaction, however small. That act of acknowledgement is not indulgence. It is strategy. It is how you teach your brain to value progress, how you motivate yourself to continue, and how you steadily build unshakable confidence. One of the most overlooked truths about confidence is that it doesn't arrive in a sudden flash of brilliance or through a single, life-changing achievement. Instead, it is the result of steady, accumulated progress. Confidence grows in the same way a tree does. You don't plant a seed today and expect a towering oak tomorrow. You nurture it with small, consistent actions, and over time, those actions compound into something strong, resilient, and deeply rooted. This principle, that consistent progress builds confidence, is what transforms short bursts of motivation into lasting self-belief. When people set out to improve themselves, they often imagine dramatic leaps forward. They want to go from beginner to expert, from insecure to bold, from stagnant to thriving. But this all-or-nothing mindset is often a trap. Big leaps can feel exciting in the moment, but they are hard to sustain. The real power lies in consistent effort, in the little wins repeated again and again until they accumulate into undeniable progress. Confidence thrives in environments where progress is visible, regular, and dependable, not sporadic or unpredictable. Think about learning any new skill, whether it's speaking a language, mastering a sport, or becoming proficient in a professional role. At first, the learning curve can feel daunting. You might make mistakes, stumble over words, or fail at a new technique. If you only measured your worth by the end result, fluency, mastery, or expertise, you would quickly feel discouraged. But if you measure progress in small increments, 10 new words learned, a slight improvement in form, one successful conversation, you begin to see that growth is happening. Each small success adds to the foundation of your confidence, reminding you that improvement is possible and that you are capable of more than you believed yesterday. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. Confidence is not built by doing something once with great effort, but by showing up repeatedly. Consider someone training for a marathon. Running 20 miles once might prove endurance, but it won't create lasting confidence. Running consistently every week, gradually increasing distance and stamina, builds both the physical capacity and the mental belief that completing a marathon is possible. The same is true in life. Small, consistent efforts become part of your identity, and that identity fuels confidence. Another reason accumulated progress builds confidence is because it creates a track record. Confidence is often mistaken for blind optimism, but real confidence comes from evidence. You don't believe in yourself because you wish you could succeed. You believe in yourself because you have proof that you can succeed. Every small win you stack over time becomes part of that proof. You begin to carry a record of achievements, however modest, that whisper back to you in moments of doubt. You've done hard things before. You can do this again. This track record also helps silence the inner critic. Everyone has that voice inside that says, "You're not good enough," or "You'll never make it. If you only focus on big goals." It's easy for that voice to dominate because the distance between where you are and where you want to be feels overwhelming. But when you have accumulated evidence of small progress, pages read, projects finished, days exercised, you have something concrete to point to. You can counter the critic with facts. I may not be at the finish line, but I've already made consistent progress. That's proof I can keep going. It's also important to remember that accumulated progress builds resilience alongside confidence. When progress is gradual and steady, setbacks are easier to absorb. If you've built a strong base of small wins, one failure doesn't feel catastrophic. It's just a bump in the road. For example, if you've exercised consistently for 6 months, missing one workout won't shake your confidence. You already have evidence of discipline, but if you've only just begun and expect perfection, a single missed day can feel like failure. Consistent progress cushions you against self-doubt because your confidence is not built on one fragile success. It's built on dozens or hundreds of moments where you showed up. Accumulated progress also teaches patience, which is a core component of lasting confidence. Quick wins can feel good, but they can also create the illusion that growth should always be fast and easy. When you build confidence through consistent effort, you internalize the truth that progress is gradual. This patience gives you the calm assurance to face long-term challenges without panic. You begin to trust the process, and that trust translates into confidence not just in your ability, but in the journey itself. Another critical aspect is identity. Every time you accumulate small wins, you're not just achieving tasks. You're shaping who you are. A person who writes one page a day is not just producing words. They are becoming a writer. Someone who exercises 3 times a week is not just burning calories. They are becoming an athlete. Identity is one of the strongest sources of confidence because it shifts the question from, "Can I do this?" to, "This is who I am." Accumulated progress transforms your sense of self, and that transformation becomes the bedrock of unwavering confidence. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you want to build confidence in public speaking. If you expect yourself to deliver a flawless keynote right away, you'll likely feel paralyzed. But if you commit to small, consistent steps, introducing yourself clearly in meetings, asking one question in class, giving short updates to colleagues, you accumulate progress over time. Each small success adds another layer to your confidence. After months of practice, you don't just believe you can speak in public, you know it, because you've built the skill piece by piece. Accumulated progress also inspires others, which further boosts your confidence. When people around you notice your steady improvement, they often offer encouragement or admiration. This external feedback is not the foundation of confidence, but it is a valuable reinforcement. It reminds you that your efforts are visible and meaningful, not just to you, but to the people who witness your growth. This creates a feedback loop. Your consistent progress builds confidence in yourself. Others notice and encourage you, and that encouragement fuels even greater progress. Ultimately, the power of accumulated progress is that it transforms confidence from something fragile into something durable. A sudden burst of confidence might crumble in the face of failure or doubt, but confidence built on months or years of small wins is much harder to shake. It is rooted in reality, in the evidence of your own actions. You no longer have to hope you're capable. You know you are because your progress proves it. Confidence, then, is less about the size of the steps you take and more about the consistency with which you take them. Each step, no matter how small, is a vote for your ability to keep going. Each repetition is another layer in the foundation of belief you are building. Over time, the accumulation of those steps becomes something powerful, an unshakable confidence that you can trust yourself to grow, adapt, and succeed. The true magic of small wins lies not only in the immediate boost they provide, but in their ability to evolve into lasting habits that reshape who you are. While a single small victory can certainly spark confidence, the real transformation happens when those wins are repeated consistently enough that they become part of your daily life. When small wins are no longer isolated events but ingrained routines, they form the foundation for a confident identity. Confidence that isn't fleeting or fragile, but stable and enduring. Habits are powerful because they operate beneath the surface. Once something becomes a habit, it no longer requires constant willpower or conscious decision-making. You don't have to psych yourself up to brush your teeth or put on your shoes. You simply do it because it's part of your routine. In the same way, when you turn small wins into habits, whether it's exercising for 10 minutes, journaling for 5, or finishing one meaningful task each morning, you no longer have to summon massive motivation. The act becomes automatic, and with every repetition, it reinforces your confidence in who you are. Turning small wins into habits begins with consistency. The first time you wake up early, complete a workout, or finish a project, it feels like a victory. But if you don't repeat it, the confidence boost is temporary. However, if you repeat that action daily or weekly, your brain begins to associate it with your identity. You are no longer someone who tries to wake up early. You are someone who wakes up early. That shift in identity is where confidence becomes permanent. Confidence built on habits is not about proving yourself once. It's about proving yourself again and again until it becomes second nature. Consider the example of journaling. Writing in a journal once might make you feel accomplished, but it won't change your self-image. Writing consistently every day, even for a few minutes, gradually turns into a habit. Over time, you start to see yourself as reflective, disciplined, and mindful. That identity builds confidence, not just in writing, but in your ability to maintain structure and consistency in other areas of life. The habit of journaling becomes more than the words on the page. It becomes proof of your capability. The beauty of turning small wins into habits is that habits compound over time. Each repetition makes the action easier, more automatic, and more deeply rooted. At first, going for a 5-minute walk may feel like a minor achievement, but once it becomes a habit, you may naturally extend it to 10 minutes, then 20. Without forcing yourself, you grow stronger and more disciplined, and the confidence you gain is exponential. This compounding effect is why small wins are so much more powerful when they become habits. They create growth that is self-sustaining. Habits also provide stability during challenging times. Life is unpredictable, and confidence can easily be shaken by setbacks, failures, or unexpected obstacles. But when small wins are part of your daily routine, they act as anchors. Even when everything else feels uncertain, you can rely on your habits to ground you. For example, if you've developed the habit of meditating for 2 minutes every morning, that ritual can provide calm and reassurance even in stressful seasons. Your confidence remains intact because it is tied not to external circumstances, but to your consistent actions. Another key benefit of making small wins habitual is that they create ripple effects. Habits rarely exist in isolation. One positive habit often leads to others. When you consistently celebrate small wins in one area of life, your confidence naturally spills into other areas. For instance, the discipline of exercising regularly might also strengthen your confidence at work, because you've proven to yourself that you can stick with something. This ripple effect magnifies your confidence, turning it from a specific trait into a general mindset. It's important, however, to be intentional about which small wins you turn into habits. Not all routines build confidence. Some habits, like procrastination or negative self-talk, chip away at your belief in yourself. The goal is to identify small wins that are aligned with the identity you want to build. If you want to become confident in your career, you might form the habit of finishing one important task before lunch each day. If you want confidence in your health, you might form the habit of cooking one nutritious meal daily. The habits you choose will shape the kind of confidence you cultivate. One practical strategy for turning small wins into habits is to connect them to existing routines. This technique, often called habit stacking, makes it easier to embed new behaviors into your life. For example, if you already brush your teeth every morning, you could stack a small win by doing 2 minutes of stretching immediately afterward. By linking the new action to something you already do, you reduce friction and increase consistency. Over time, the small win becomes as automatic as the routine it's tied to, and your confidence grows with it. Reward also plays a crucial role. Celebrating small wins, as discussed earlier, is what keeps you motivated in the short term. But when those celebrations are repeated consistently, they help solidify the action as a habit. The brain begins to expect the reward, whether it's a feeling of pride, a check mark on a list, or a few minutes of relaxation. This expectation strengthens the loop: action, reward, repetition. With enough cycles, the action becomes ingrained, and confidence becomes embedded in the habit itself. Ultimately, the goal of turning small wins into habits is not just to achieve external results, but to transform your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, who grows, who can be trusted to take consistent action. That identity is the deepest form of confidence because it doesn't depend on circumstances or outcomes. It's not fragile or temporary. It is who you are. When small wins become habits, confidence stops being something you chase and starts being something you live. You don't need to prove yourself with big achievements to feel worthy. Instead, you carry quiet, steady assurance every day, built on the foundation of habits that affirm your strength and capability. And as those habits continue to grow, so too does your confidence, expanding, compounding, and becoming an inseparable part of your character. As you can see, confidence isn't a gift you're born with. It's something you build through countless small wins you commit to every day. Each time you complete even a tiny task, You're not just moving closer to your goals, you're sending yourself a powerful message. I can do this. So start today with just one small step, and let each victory become a brick in the foundation of unshakable confidence. If this video inspired you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to spread confidence to even more people. See you in the next video.